It's very nice to meet you, Bill. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to join everybody. I'm very excited.
Thank you. And I'm going to let you share your screen as I know that you have a presentation that is coming on. So,
I do.
Bill, I also understand you are from what state and moved down here 6 years ago?
I am a Baltimore, DC guy. We moved to Oviedo. It'll be 6 years this July. And we were chatting about it earlier. The question I had for myself is, why did I take so long? Why did I take so long to get down here? Because I don't miss the cold, and we really, really enjoy living here. And I'll expand on that a little bit more as we get through the presentation. So, well, listen, thank you to the Chamber. I truly appreciate the opportunity to get to know everybody and share a little bit about kind of my philosophies. Thank you to UCF for giving us the opportunity to do this as well. It's always weird, right? Hearing that bio about yourself, right? It's kind of strange, but sales and sales leadership has been my passion for a long time, and certainly coaching. So, the goal today is to do a little bit of that sharing to try to help you guys identify some things that can, accelerate your business a little bit. If the thunder comes, right, I can control a lot of things. I can control the noise and maybe the dog and all that type of stuff to a certain degree. If the thunder comes, I'll give it a second to pass and we'll continue to move forward. So I'm assuming everybody can see my screen sufficiently. Is that a thumbs up from everyone? All right, good. So we are going to talk about creating some momentum. I hesitate to use the word down, but I think we're all kind of on the same page that we're in a different place. We are, and getting some ideas and some information on how to navigate this, I think is helpful for all of us. So the goal today is to do that. When we think about sales training, I have been involved in Sandler for almost 7 years now, both as a client and as a trainer. And I have to be very honest with you, sales training for me, I always push back on it a little bit, right? Training in general, because the normal training is come in for a day or two on a seminar and get some ideas, right? Problematically, what happens is you don't necessarily progress that through things that can improve your business to what I call mastery. Today, we're going to work on the first two, right? Hopefully, I'll be able to provide some awareness and some knowledge, some nuggets of some information that are going to help you, some ideas, some philosophies. It's your responsibility, very honestly, to take that and equate it into skill, right? Because skill, if you pick up an idea or two that you like and you really concentrate on how to create the skill set there, that will form into mastery. And mastery means you're going to see business improvement, right? So don't try to take it all in. Take in the pieces that resonate, that work for you, and then extract those ideas and commit to yourself on the other side of it that you're going to start to think about how to apply some of these things to really make a change in your business. So we have a very kind of, core philosophy on success. Success is built off of 3 tenets: attitude, behavior, and technique. And if you notice, I started with attitude at the top, right? Because attitude is what drives everything else, but the behavior and the technique, equal parts of the triangle. And so we're going to cover a little bit of all of that today. We're going to really talk about all 3 parts of the triangle. And I was mentioning to Bridget, this is a presentation I really enjoy doing because it does cover different parts of your business, based on this success triangle that you can apply. So let's make sure everybody's good on the chat. If you don't know where your chat button is, look along the bottom. It might say more. I'm going to ask you a quick question. Tell me something you did over the long weekend that you enjoyed, something that was fun. I can tell you what we did is we put up the volleyball net in the pool and had a team family volleyball game, which I can't say I won all the games, but it was a lot of fun spending time with the kids. Anybody want to throw something out there they might have done? Barbecued, gone to the beach, read a good book, took a walk. This is the part where you start typing, people. All right, visited my parents. Thank you, Bridget. I appreciate that. Went for a walk every day. We've been doing that as well. I lost weight during this process, which is shocking, but it's because I'm walking every day. Slept. All right, got some catch up on our sleep. Godfather. Look at that. Walking 10,000 steps a day. Good for you, Chris. That's awesome. All right, so we know how to use chat. Let's move to a question that's pertinent. If you think about your business right now, right, what's one thing that you feel like you're struggling with, right? Is it having new conversations with prospects? Is it getting in front of those customers that have been your customers for a long time to make sure that, you know, things are well with them and there's retention? You know, what's one thing that you think you're struggling with ever so slightly in kind of the conditions of the market today? Anybody want to take a flyer on that, be a little vulnerable and put themselves out there? Easing everyone's fear. I totally agree with that. And keep that word fear in mind, because I think that's extremely pertinent in what we're going to talk about today. Anybody else want to take a flyer on that? All right, we'll let Gary lead the charge. Look, we all have things we're struggling with right now. Let's be very honest. And so do our clients and our prospects. I think that's the first thing that we need to recognize, right? But I like to put things in perspective, right? I'm a goals guy. You know, I think future, right? It's kind of how I'm built. And I won't tell you that I don't get tethered down into the negativity of things, right? It's hard not to. But I try to keep a little perspective if I look at these, you know, the crises or the things that we've gone through before that are major events, right? But I want to reference something for you outside of, you know, September 11th or the 2008 or even this one, which probably has a longer term, more dramatic effect. Let's be honest with each other. If you think about your business, right, there are many crises that go on all the time. You have ebb and flow. It could be something internal for you. It could be something for your client. It could be a market condition specific to your industry. It could be a lot of different things. But strangely enough, all crises dip and peak. And we expect the same thing now, right? So how do we as an organization work through that dip and plan for that moving up towards the peak, right? So we start to get that J curve. Look, these were short and they climbed pretty quickly. We might have a longer climb, but we have a responsibility as an organization to move our company forward, to think about ways that we work our way through that peak. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Everybody's got to take a little bit of a look in the mirror, right? When things like this happen, you and your clients are going to go through the same process. They are, right? They start out with fear. All of us were there. I can't think of anybody that said, oh crap, this isn't bad. Everybody said that. Then we moved to assessment. What do we do, right? What do we do? Then we moved to organizing. What we're doing right now is very pertinent on the organizing piece, right? We've moved to Zoom, right? We've moved to different ways to meet and do business and move forward, right? Now, a collection of us, a collection of your clients and your prospects are still in stage 1, 2, and 3. And it's our responsibility to respect that, right? That identification of where they are is a key component to be able to get back to business. But the folks that aren't, those are the ones that are ready for those conversations. They're going to plan of attack. They're going to executing for success in spite of or in line with the current market conditions. So I challenge you, right? I challenge you to think through in your organization and yourself, where do you sit here? Right? Because sooner or later, we got to move to plan of attack and executing success. We can't control that external environment. It's our responsibility. But also, as you start to work towards your prospecting plans or your growth plans or working with clients, where do they sit? And where can you be helpful in moving them to plan of attack and executing for success? That's that first mindset of attitude, right? Now, some things to think about as you go through this process, right? And if you notice, the market allows me. You see how that's different? It allows me. What are the positives of the things that we can look at that we currently have the opportunity to start to affect change and move ourselves into that curve that's going up, right? We have time to take to work on our business instead of just in it. Take a step back, right? Oftentimes when we're super crazy busy, right, we don't necessarily do a diagnostic kind of view of our business. Take a little bit of time to think through that. Focus on what's truly important to us and our clients. Clean our pipelines. Now, what do I mean by that? This is a really good opportunity for us to take a look at the prospecting that we've done and who we think are prospects now and in the future. And take a step back, a very hard, critical step back, and look at it and say, you know what, right now this one's not good. Right now this one does work. Because part of cleaning pipeline is letting you know what your baseline is, right? Where do I sit? And when we look at goals, where do I need to move forward to achieve my goals, right? So take a critical look at that pipeline and be honest with yourself and have your sales folks do the same. This is a big one. Very big one. A lot of our competition will be stuck in 1, 2, and 3. They will. They'll batten down the hatches, right? They'll circle the wagons and they'll look to ride out the storm. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if they're there and we're moving to plan, execute a plan and move towards success, does that give us a little bit of an advantage, right? So look at your competition, see where they are. We're going to talk a lot about this for the latter part of the presentation. What are the pains of our clients, right? What are the things that are really causing them problems as they pertain also to our products and services, and where do we fit in solving some of those problems for them? This is one that I think everybody needs to look at and say, is this appropriate, or is this something that I can look at? Raising margins and prices. Don't turn a blind eye to it, right? Just because we have COVID doesn't mean we don't want to be profitable. We don't want to have strong margins. And then become a stronger, pressure-tested team. I think some of you have already felt this, right? The relationships or the conversations you're having with that team to get that team really moving and get on that same idea. And it's really interesting. I think this experience in the marketplace. I ask this question to my students: is it easier or harder to have a conversation with a prospect right now? Honestly, think about that. A lot of people would say harder. I say easier. When in life do we all have a common problem together? Not very often. Now, I don't like it. I don't like the commonality of the problem, but it doesn't mitigate the fact that we all are sharing in the same difficulty and trying to figure a way past it and through it, right? And there's nothing wrong with talking to your prospects about it. It lets them know that you understand them and they can understand you a little bit. All right. Everything we do in attitude is about belief, judgment, action, results. And if you look at that list I gave you, it's the same thing, right? Belief, fear. Judgment, assess, reorganize. Action, what am I going to do? Results, move towards success, right? That pattern exists and you have to go through it naturally, right? Now, little quote for you, may mean something to you, may not. It's not how you feel that determines how you act. It's how you act that determines how you feel, right? Taking action, thinking about proactive ways and new ideas to move your business forward will do worlds for your attitude if you apply them. All right, one thing that's working. What's working for you right now in your business? Having great conversations with current clients, right? My prospecting is going well, right? People, because of my products or services or my approach, they're willing to have conversations with me. My services as they pertain to growing my business, expanding my reach and richness is going well. How you doing? That's Gary, thank you, right? Your networking, reaching potential clients, okay? Anybody else? All right, good. Here's a couple things that we can do as a planning basis to help grow our business. And the first one is a concept I call KARE, right? Sandler uses the KARE method. So if we look at our current clients and also our prospects, it's our responsibility to kind of itemize this and break them into buckets, right? A little bit of plan of attack here, right? So let's start with the first one, keep. Have we looked at the clients that we've been doing business with for a while, our A-plus clients? Have we looked at that, made a list of them, and really kind of identified the last time we made a touch point? Are we proactively making that touch point, right? Because the danger with a keep client, right, somebody that's an A-plus client that's been there with us forever, our competitors want to do business with them. Let's be honest, right? That's the one that when you're in a networking event, your competitor wants to run over and figure out how to have a conversation with your client, right? So right now is a good opportunity to make sure that you have touch points with them and that relationship is strong and you're identifying anything that they need, right, from you, your products, your services to help them continue to move their business forward, right? Attain is going out there in the marketplace and finding new folks. But see, I think that's tactical today. It starts with that idea, right? Where do they sit Where do they sit in that decision-making process, right? Figuring that out. And some of those can actually be qualified outside of the discussion. You know who they are. Make a list. If you don't have a prospect target list that is pertinent to the marketplace today and what you can accomplish with your goods and services, you need to make that. That target list is very, very important. Recapture. How many clients have we lost to the competition, or when we had a conversation with them, they said, no, not for us? How many times has that happened? And you know full well they're not making the best decision. Maybe they made the decision purely on price. And now looking back, they wish they hadn't, right? Maybe that competitor of yours is not doing so well, unfortunately. And the services that they're providing open an opportunity for you to go back in and have that discussion. But let me tell you something about the recapture discussion. This is incredibly important. Recapture discussions should be based on vulnerability. Hey, we spoke 2 years ago. We had a really good conversation, but we didn't necessarily come to a partnership. I get that. Can you give me just a little bit of sense, right? I would really appreciate the favor of you telling me, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? That approach in and of itself will vet out some of the stuff that was a concern before and let them know that you're interested in fixing whatever that problem may have existed. If it's price, it's price. I get it, right? But it's worth the conversation. And then expand. I have a concept called reach and richness. Reach is attain. Going out and finding new clients, right? Always very important to our business model. We always have to be prospecting. We always have to be finding new clients. But richness is I got a great client, but I have additional products and services that could help them and get more of that wallet share. Have you looked at your current client base and really got a good understanding where that richness lives and are engaging those conversations, right? This is a process that every company should be doing right now to separate these out and thinking about points of attack, okay? Now, we know we got a prospect. Sometimes it doesn't feel so good, right? But the first thing you need to understand is what are the behaviors, right? What are the things that you can and can't do? We're not doing a lot of networking events right now, starting to open back up a little. In-person calls, not so much, opening back up a little. Travel, probably not for this foreseeable future, right? What can we do? Obviously, we're doing the video conferencing, social selling. If you haven't invested some time in learning about LinkedIn, do it. Take the training classes. I can certainly give you some direction and some help on that, right? LinkedIn is a powerful tool. For the folks on here that are involved in Facebook, more on the B2C side, right? You got to get that game plan down. That's where people are, right? Cold calling, cold emailing. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't. There's a process that really does work if you commit to it. It takes a little courage. It takes getting your nose blooded a little bit, right? But if you're not putting together a strong list and coming up with, what we call a 30-second no pressure prospecting approach, you need to do that. Thought leadership, right? I've been doing thought leadership, right? I'm doing it right now. I'm promoting myself to you on how I think and feel about, sales and sales development and leadership development. Online webinars and client relationships. The last one, do not mitigate that. Go back to that KARE model. I have a saying, activity breeds income. When you are out there proactively having conversations with your clients, right? That will breed positive results. Look yourself in the mirror right now and tell yourself, when's the last time I asked for a referral from a current client? When should I be asking for a referral from a current client? There's only one answer. Every time. Every time. So those client relationships can yield so many good things, especially those A-tier clients that love you, right? All right, so we have a thing called a cookbook. A cookbook is really a roadmap to activity, okay? And the way the cookbook works is you basically line out everything that you can think about from an activity standpoint that works for you and your business. Step one. Step two for me is, which ones do I think are gonna be most effective, right? In my industry, my business, my clients, my prospects, which one is gonna be the most effective? Here's another one, and this is important. Which ones do I like to do the best? right? Because your attitude behind that will promote the ability to do it well. Now, it doesn't stop there, right? You have to then assign weekly, bi-weekly, monthly activity goals to those particular tasks. And you have to measure them. Now, I would say to you guys, if you're going to do cold emailing and you're going to do 100 contacts every 3 weeks, put it in your calendar. Because what happens with prospecting is when we get busy, that's the one that falls off the radar, right? Put it in your calendar. Now, it doesn't stop there, right? We know the preparation piece. We talked about that within the KARE model and the prospect target list, right, and the social selling. But what will happen over time if you're diligent about this and you really measure it is you'll start to see which ones are moving to the top and moving down the list. Maybe the one that you thought was going to be best that you didn't like doing moves second or third, and the one that you thought wasn't going to be so great but you did like doing is yielding better results for you. And what you'll find over time is a formula that will work for you. But it's not random. It's not, you know what, I'm going to make 50 phone calls this week and see how it goes. It doesn't work that way. So you got to commit to it. You got to put it down on paper. You got to put it in your calendar, and you got to try it. Okay? Anybody got a thumbs up or thumbs down about that one? This is always part of the presentation where everybody goes, I don't know. Trust me on this one. As uncomfortable it may feel sometimes, it's going to give you some of the keys to the kingdom that are going to work for you. And I can tell you, every student I have, every company I work with, cold calls doesn't work for all of them. I'm just being super honest with you. That's not the way that they yield business in their marketplace. The one thing that will work for all of you is referrals. I can guarantee you that, right? All right. You can't manage anything you can't control. Never manage your numbers, manage your behaviors. The numbers will yield themselves. Commit to something, manage those behaviors, and you'll get the feedback you need to start to come up with that formula for success. Let me check my time. All right, we're doing good. All right, technique. What do I do in addition to what I'm doing today? What do I do from a technique standpoint, right? And let me line this up so you and I are on the same page. If somebody says to you, I'm going to teach you how to close with a closing line, it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as a closing line, right? When I talk about technique, I talk about a process, a mindset, and an approach, right? That will get you new business, that will get you client retention. I can't teach you some fancy, right, thing to say, right? So I want you to center in on that because I'm going to give you a little bit of perspective here on some of the challenges you might be facing as it pertains to sales and your sales process, and a couple nuggets that you can look at to make some improvements, okay? So, most roadblocks, stalls, and objections you face evolve from interactions with the buyer. They're not necessarily related or tied to a particular facet of your products or services. Now I say necessarily, right? Not everybody is going to have the need or utilize your products and services, right? If it was, I mean, you know, we'd just be picking apples off a tree. It doesn't work like that, right? But oftentimes we think that it's something with the buyer that's prohibiting us. It's not. It's something with the approach, right? So we have this philosophy in Sandler, and I have been a very successful sales leader for a number of years, right? I've taken companies and, you know, through private equity and had a lot of success. What I'm going to explain to you now is the way I did it for 20 some years successfully, right? But I want you to just think through this because there's some pitfalls, right? So we think about how we buy today, how your buyers buy, how you buy, right? There is a formula that's in place for all of us. It's natural, right? And the idea that I can get behind this is you go shopping into a store, right? Clothing store, auto dealership, anywhere where there's a salesperson there that's going to help you. More often than not, you've done some research. You know what you're looking for, right? But I want you to think about something. When that salesperson walks up to you and says, hey, can I help you? Even if you're a salesperson by nature, what's the normal response? I know you're thinking it, just looking, not right now, right? Because the way we create our mindset, right? The way we create our mindset is we have to be defensive in a buying situation, in a prospecting situation, right? We do. Now, when we get past that, that still lives there, but normally when you get a prospect, do they express interest? They're like, yeah, you know what? I'd be interested in having a discussion with you. That interest is expressed, right? We do the normal thing, right? We go, okay, let me do a little bit of needs analysis, which is great. And I probably wouldn't change all that much. What your prospect does is they continue to act motivated. This is the good part of the sales conversation, right? Now, here's where it starts to become a problem. When we see that motivation, when we see that interest, the natural default and the way we've been thinking about sales for a long time is to give them the information that we believe they need to make a decision. Would you guys agree with that? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a yes on that. Bridget, you agree with that? Thumbs up? Yeah, we do, right? And you know what? Logically, that's the right thing to do. Problematically, what happens is we allow the buyer to filter all that information through their own lens. If I ask any of you, why should somebody buy your product? You can't give me one reason. You can't say this is the one reason they would buy. There's multiple reasons. And those reasons are based on the needs and the problems for your client that they solve. When we go into presentation mode and let them just data dump, feature benefit, we're already in trouble. We don't have a sense on why we should do business together. Let me say that again. We don't have a sense on why we should do business together. Now, we get to that point. Typically, are they asking for a price? Absolutely. Right? Because we're consulting to them. You know, oftentimes maybe they're comparing us against somebody else, right? But they're doing that through their own lens. And we jump right to that present and propose, that proposal piece, because we're anxious. We're like, we got a good prospect here. And honestly, and think about your sales that haven't gone so well, that's where it gets rocky. It does, right? Because as soon as we propose, they have everything that they need, right? Now, does that mean that they're not going to close? No, of course. They've obtained the information. Maybe what you've told them is filtered through that lens in a positive way, right? And now they say, yeah, I'm in 10% of the time, 8% of the time, right? The problem is the other half of that, right? A lot of folks will come back and say, I need some more things to answer. And normally when they get those things, that means that they're comparing them to your competition, or maybe they're filtering that up through the chain of command in their own words on why they should do business, but you've been removed from that process and you're kind of left in the dark, right? Then they go into that avoid commitment mode, right? They do. It's happened to me more times than I can count. It's happened to my salespeople, right? One of the biggest problems I had to solve for in the last company that I managed was we gave tons of proposals. We just didn't write an equal amount of business before I employed Sandler, right? Because we thought the proposal was the sale. It was to the prospect, it wasn't to us. So they go through this process, they're avoiding commitment. We think we're going to handle some objections and the sale's still alive, but we still haven't centered in on what's important to them. Maybe we have, but more often than not, we haven't. And then they go into disappear mode and we go into stalker mode. And if you want to see the reason why most people don't want to do sales, it's not the presentation, it's not the discussion, it's the fact that you do all that work and it ends up in stalker mode, right? And then you got to start the process all over again, right? So I'm not telling you all this because I expect you to go, I got it, let me go fix it, right? What I am telling you is there's a couple key things that you can do today to help fix the problem, right? Now, we have a methodology that I follow, right? We have a very standard sales methodology and sales process. I'm not showing this to you to sell you Sandler. I'm telling you that straight up. But what I do want you to identify is step 3 in the process, right? So we all do bonding and rapport. You know, I could get into the details of upfront contract, but what I want you to focus in on is pain. Because pain is the most important piece, especially today, that you need to get your head around. Because if you can get your head around this, and you can have a conversation with somebody about their pain, and you don't want to tell them, I want to know your pain, right? That's a term that we're going to use as a group, right? The problems you solve, the benefits that you can yield by solving those problems, right? You will be more apt to have a conversation with them specific to why we should do business together before you get to proposal, before you get to overcoming objections, before you get to I can't get a hold of them, right? Before you get through that marinating of I'll call them on Tuesday, I'll email them on Thursday, I'll call them again on Friday, okay, I give up, right? So pain. Pain is all about uncovering reasons for doing business. So here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about your product and services as it pertains to the marketplace today. Let me say this again. Think about your products and services as it pertains to the marketplace today. And what problems do you specifically help your customers with? And I can tell you, I don't care what you do, there are some specific things that you can help people with today. Now, they may not be any different than pre-COVID, right? They're problems that still exist, but if you start to dissect them more and more, those are the things that people are worried about. Those are the reasons they're going to have conversations with you, right? Because let me give you a little piece of news here. People buy for their reasons, not yours. Nobody gets together with a salesperson because they don't have anything to do. They get together with you because there's a particular problem or a gain that you bring to the table that they want to learn more about. Your responsibility in that process is to understand that. Because if you understand their pain, if you understand the problems that they solve, right, that means that you can work together, right, together in a partnership to help solve that problem. And what that does for you is this, right? I have a firm belief, right? The tenets of how I believe in sales are based on three things. One, I believe in equal business stature. Just because you're a salesperson doesn't mean that we should not be on the same page with working together to solve a particular problem. That yes, I get to make money doing it. Hooray. But you get to solve problems and make more money in your business. Alignment. Two, it is not ethical to sell something to somebody they don't need. That sales approach doesn't work, guys. It doesn't. Now, it may end up in a sale, but two things are going to happen. One, you're going to depress your margins. It's going to all be about price, right? Because you're forcing the issue because you don't understand if they need it or not, right? And you need to think about it that way. Is this going to solve a problem for them? Because you're qualifying them and disqualifying them at the same time. But here's the third part of it that's most important to me. It's not ethical not to sell something to somebody that they do need. If you were going out there and you were selling the cure for COVID right now, and somebody said, nah, not interested, I guarantee your approach would be different. I guarantee it, right? And your product and services yield that same, not at that level, right? I don't want to overblow it, right? But there's certain things that you do really solve and can benefit your client, right? And if you think back to that conversation of we lost out on this client, right? And they chose the other person for the wrong reasons, it's because you guys didn't get on the same page of what the problem you were really solving. So if you focus in on this discussion in a positive manner, thinking about, can I really help this person? And let's figure that out together. All of a sudden, that one piece of the sales conversation will change dramatically for you. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. Here's what I would recommend to all of you. Go back with your teams, your coworkers, your leadership. If you're the leader, collect everybody and sit down and have a good conversation about your products and services and the problems they solve. Articulate that to each other, right? Understand it. And I want you to understand it at 3 levels, right? One, if it's a surface problem, right? If I buy this, I make this. Okay, I get that. If I don't do this, you know, if I do this, then this is going to change in my business. Surface level, right? The second is the reasons or the cause for the problem deeper down, right? What's the reasons that the problems are happening, and how does my product and services fit within that? And then the last one, the business and personal impact of the problem, right? So I'm buying widgets. I'm spending too much for my widgets. Okay, I got cheaper widgets. My widgets are better than their widgets. Observable problem. Reasons for the problem. Well, that widget fits into this piece of the puzzle, which increases the rate of my production lines. If I don't get them at a better cost, if I don't get them on time, then my production lines aren't as efficient, both from a cost standpoint and a yield standpoint, right? Business and personal impact. The difference in the cost of my widgets is cutting my profitability at a rate of 15%. I'm 15% less profitable because of these widgets. Because of that 15%, I can't reinvest in my business and expand my lines. Because I can't expand my lines and reinvest in my business, I can't necessarily raise the bonuses of what I need to pay to attract more talent. Because I can't attract more talent, I can't really grow my business and expand it nationally. And because of that, I don't make as much, and I can't buy the beach house that me and my wife have been dreaming about for the last 10 years. That's personal and business impact problem, right? And look, none of this is easy. I don't want to, you know, make this a simple thing. But if you think about it in terms of how does it really impact that person, I'm telling you, the shift in the conversation that they have with you and your ability to present equal business stature, just that one piece of the puzzle will start to move you in that direction. All right. Now, let's take the sales process out. Let's talk a little bit about coaching and communicating, right? Because I touched on the pain problem a little bit, right? This is where we start to think about that last piece, right? Where we all get together and get on the same page and build the strength of our organization, right? I have kind of a philosophy, you know, when it comes to attitude, I think there's a check-in, especially today, right? It's got to be on the calendar. I like Wednesdays. Wednesdays is attitude day. And it's not group, right? It's individual. You know, it'll be Bridget, hey, you got time for a cup of coffee? Just want to see how you're doing. How's your week going, right? And I share the same thing back with her, right? Because that communication, that check-in on attitude does a great deal for your employees and yourself. Make sure your team knows what to do. So if we go back to that KARE model and some of the things that we're doing in prospecting, right? Put it down on paper, build a plan, communicate it well to the rest of the team. Collect and share best practices. This is a great one. And I'm talking about if you got a rookie salesperson that's out there making cold calls, right? Talk to them. Find out what's working, right? It goes loads for, you know, the communication and the belief in you and your team, but it also gives you some nuggets on what's happening in the marketplace. Create a routine. If you're a manager, if you're somebody that's directing somebody, right? My routine is Monday mornings, we do a check-in on what the goal is for the week. What's our activity goal? What are we going to do? Wednesday's attitude check. Friday, we're circling back around, seeing how we're doing, solving any problems, and getting ready for the following week. If you got 5 employees, you're talking about an hour and a half a day on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it will go volumes for you, right? That routine starts to create some consistency and brings back that information. And especially today when things are changing and you're not quite sure and you need more information, utilize that. Focus on time blocking priorities. We talked about that. Work on a goal time, not a clock time. And that, it's really interesting about what's happening in the world, right? I just read an article that says there's people that are talking about a 4-day work week being more efficient than a 5-day work week, right? The clock time doesn't, especially in the world today, it doesn't work, right? It's goal time. What's our goal, right? And if that goal means I got to work 24 hours a day, that's on me, right? But it's goal time, not clock time. Create momentum with sales contests. I always think this is great. Even if it doesn't feel right now, right? Getting some level of enthusiasm out there with a sales contest always is kind of fun. All right. Last but not least, riding the roller coaster together. Align company goals. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Lean in together. We're doing this today. We're leaning into each other a little bit, right? We're learning from each other a little bit, and I think it's great. I think, you know, the chamber putting these things together and allowing people to hear, you know, different points of view. There's nothing better than that. Manage expectations. Look, you know, as we go through those 5 steps and figure out where we are, we also have to put plans together that we feel like we can come close to accomplish, right? And all of these steps that I've talked about will help you get to those managing of expectations. Over communicate right now, and this is the ebb and flow, right? One of the things that happens in times like this is we ride the roller coaster a lot more than we normally do. We do, right? You can think everything's fine on a Tuesday, you get up Wednesday morning, you read the wrong thing, and you're feeling like, oh my Lord, everything's over, right? So that ability to communicate, those attitude check-ins are going to go do worlds to try to, you know, level it all out for you and resist the big peaks and valleys. Listen. Not just to people you work with, but listen to your customers as well. We teach a lot about active listening, and active listening is built on 2 pieces: patience and curiosity. Patience and curiosity. If you take a mode with your employees and with your clients and with your prospects of patience and curiosity, let me tell you something, man. That right there in active listening and listening to folks, it will yield tons of good things for you and for them. All right, and then share successes. Celebrate some wins. Maybe not coming together as much, but make sure you celebrate them. Thank you all so much. There's my information. If you ever need my help, if you're interested in talking to me additionally, I'd love to have a further conversation with you. Bridget, I'll turn it back over to you.
Bill, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was Bill Reedy, the president of Powerhouse Consulting. What a great presentation. Does anybody have any questions in the chat box? I'm going to check it out right now. It looks like we have a thank you, Bill, in there. That's another thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it, man.
I am now going to end the actual presentation. I'm going to also open it up to any questions, so I will be unmuting everyone. But thank you so much. Everyone have a great